first and foremost, welcome to the show, and thank you for joining me. This is long overdue, my friend.
I'm super stoked that I'm here on Passing the Torch. This is
Thanks,
super
man.
cool for me because I like what you're doing. I really do. And I mean this honestly. There's a lot of podcasters out there. There's a lot of them. There's only a few that I really, really follow and really,
Thank
really,
you.
try to take little things from and emulate, which is the most sincere form of flattery. Yours is one of them. I think
Thank
you're
you.
doing amazing. Love everything you're doing. And you're also newly Air Force retired. So
That's right, man.
congrats on that.
23 years. Hey, I want to address that in a second, but thanks for the kind words because I appreciate that. That means a lot because I don't get that feedback. Before we actually started officially recording, we were talking about the grind of it. We don't know, right? Or people don't see all that goes into it. People may see the guests that we get, but they don't see the 100 rejections that we had. So thank you for that. And man, I've been on a little bit of a break, but over the next month, I have about 25 episodes that I'm planning to record. And and that's how I'm spending my time. But before we move further, so thank you. And I've been a follower of yours, man. We were talking about some of the guests that you've had on, and I'm like, oh, that's so good. And some similar guests, like we both had on Marcus Bagwell.
Well, Daddy.
Yeah, but that's gonna tie in later on. But there's only one way to record a podcast with you. I'm not going to wear these a whole episode, but with you, it's got to be savage, man. So just the
Oh man, I thought it was gonna be 4 letters, one word.
no,
Gotcha.
no.
I was about to yeet on the podcast.
Oh man, so I took my daughter to a Raw in Columbus last year, in April of last year. And the Christmas a few months before that, that was her gift. Like we got her, and I paid a lot for the tickets. So since you go to shows, like I think I probably spent about $600 or $700 between 2 tickets. So you can kind of know what kind of seats that we had. But what was really cool is, and that was her big Christmas gift, and I always wanted to. That was our first time ever going to a show. But I remember, we gave it to her on Christmas. She was excited, and then had to wait 4 months. But when we went to that Raw, whenever Jey Uso came out, she was doing the whole dance so hard, man, and it was cool. It was cool.
We were at the premiere of Raw at LA, the one on Netflix.
Dude, that's what I was going to ask you about. I remember that because I think I was texting or messaging you like, dude, I'm so jealous, man. When you were there, I was like, that is so cool.
Yeah, me and my wife and my daughter were all up there with our Jey Uso shirts, and
yeah.
It was fun, man. It was a really good time. People will talk trash about wrestling all day long, but I always like shut down to one. I'm like, you know what? Let me tell you something. They're like, it's fake. I'm like, okay, well, let me ask you a question. Do you watch movies?
Yep,
They're
exactly.
Like, you watch TV shows. They're like, oh, I'm on season 2 of The Last of Us. I'm like, guess what? That outbreak on Last of Us is fake.
Yeah.
All scripted, just like wrestling. Now these guys actually have, cracked backs and bruises.
They get one shot. They get one shot. It's a live stunt show. Now, yes, people's like, went to male soap opera, whatever. So, but when you go to a movie, like, oh my God, the Avengers won. Who would have guessed? Like, who thought that Avengers would have came out on top? Or I tell people same thing, Bodhi, like, hey, you like Luke Skywalker? That's not a real person, right? There's no such things as a Jedi. And I tell people wrestling's more real than some of the TV shows that we watch, but people still watch it. And the men and women are still going out there performing. To me, it's a live stunt show combined with it's drama, but it's amazing. It's amazing.
Storytelling, long-term storytelling. It's great. Yeah.
So why is life great right now?
Man, that's a good question. I'm very blessed right now because, and it's funny, I thought about it this morning. I was doing my cardio this morning and I was just kind of like, clear mind, just kind of thinking. And I was like, the past year, I would say like my military journey as a whole has been I've been very fortunate. I don't know if it's timing. I don't know if it's opportunity based off performance, but about a year ago, I applied for first sergeant. I was filling as additional duty first sergeant, or like a top for anybody out there listening that's in the Army. But you're essentially in charge of health, wellness, morale of a unit. And I really wanted that position. I wanted my diamond. And I filled in for a year covering down on, it was 5 squadrons and 3, but it got rejected. And I was just so distraught. My package got denied for, it was legit reasons. But it was all about timing. I said, cool, I'm putting another package in, but I was like, man, this is just, I really want to do this. And this deployment was looming, a deployment to Florida, where I am now. But still, I don't care what anybody says, it's still 6 months away from your family.
Exactly.
And that you don't get to see them. You're having to FaceTime them. And I don't care what anyone says. I'm away from my dogs, which is like the top of my list of It's like my dogs, my daughter, and my wife. And so I was very bummed that, and your daily routine and your
Yeah.
friends, your connections. And I got really good connections at Edwards. So being away from all that, I was like, oh, this deployment, I had some health issues that arose that I'm still kind of going through, which I'm an open book about, but which I haven't really talked about it on anybody's podcast. But it's like I take the deployment, I get here, it's great. The job is absolutely crazy. It is busy beyond belief, but it's one of those work hard, play hard. So then I get to explore Tampa and I get to explore Florida and go out and do different things and reconnect with people. And so I mean, and then I'm in a routine now. I'm eating better than I've ever eaten in my life. I'm watching every little bit of that. Very self disciplined in that regard. I'm getting the best workouts of my life. Mentally, I'm in a good spot. I'm reading more. I'm focusing on just overall, like every single pillar of me. I'm working on improving why I have this, because I'm like, what else am I going to do? Sit on the couch and watch Modern Family for 6 hours? So I'm rarely even, they gave me this really nice spot to stay, very rarely even in here because I'm always out doing something. And so I'm just very blessed. And I got picked up as a first sergeant about 3 weeks ago. I got notified. So when I go back, that's what I go back to, as well as my family. So life's good. I mean, it's all about the opportunities and stuff that have arisen. And I'm very fortunate, very blessed.
Yeah, and congrats on the first sergeant thing. That's super
Appreciate it.
stoked for you. Yeah, I saw when you posted that. I was just really amped. And I remember you last year doing the first sergeant stuff. And I remember we were both at a conference in August, and you and I had a chance to catch up and talk, had a good conversation. Though it's cool to see all that come to fruition. Hey, so do you mind talking about your health condition?
Yeah. So when I got to Edwards in 2023, about 2 years ago, I got there. And they had this little outside gym area, one of the pop-ups, and I'm out there working out. And we just arrived. I mean, we'd only been there a couple of weeks, and having a really good workout. I was doing box jumps, and I cleared the jump, and I was like, "Wow, I feel lightheaded." And I was thinking, I felt like vertigo or something from what I hear people say. Everything was spinning. I jumped off the box, and then I just automatically fell, like I flat backed it onto the ground. And I was laying there and I felt like I couldn't move. So I just remember my wife comes out there and she's kind of like kicking me like I'm a dead raccoon on the side of the road. She's like, "Hey, you all right?" And I said, I just don't feel good. Got back to lodging and, ran a COVID test, and it's like, nope, you're good. And couldn't quite figure it out, but cold chills, I mean, just all kinds of stuff. And every single symptom, sweating, shaking, you name it. Ended up going and getting seen a couple of times, and they're like, "Well, I think it's pneumonia. I think you got walking pneumonia, and here's some medication." Those little pearl drops. Gave me those, and I'm like, these. I feel like these make it worse. And none of the medication my body was not taking. It just was not responding. I might as well have been eating candy. And then we go about a couple more months down the road. I get a new provider, and God bless her. She said, "I just don't feel right. It doesn't feel like it's pneumonia. I think we need to get some blood work done. I think you have valley fever." And I'm like, "What the hell is valley fever?" And because everyone says, "Oh, it's the Edwards crud," because you get in all the dirt. You just get, you're breathing in all that dirt all day. But it's a fungal infection in my lungs, and it spread to both lungs. And I was very worried when I first heard, because you don't want to hear that. And I mean,
how do you catch that? I've never heard of that before.
Your guess is as good as mine. It's very rare. If you Google it, it's super rare. But I have it, and I also have 6 months worth of medication here with me that I'm having to take. But it doesn't affect me breathing. Like I still do cardio. I still do HIIT training in the gym. I still, I have every excuse to be like, "Oh, I don't have to work out."
Yeah.
It's just one of those things I just got to push through. But it was very scary because I was like, "Well, is that going to hinder opportunities that are going to be put in front of me? Is this going to hinder us staying?" Because I actually like Edwards. I think there's a lot to do there. You're an hour and a half from LA and Anaheim.
Yeah.
Hours. It's a really good spot for me and my family. My family and I love it. I don't care if anybody else doesn't. We love it. And that's all that matters to me. So I wanted to stay there. But the doctor actually said, "You going to Florida is going to be better because of the humidity for your lungs to fight this and combat this, because you won't be around the dirt." So the goal is, it's like a 6-month road to recovery. So by the time I go back in October, I should be over it, but I'm still having to do blood work and all that stuff. So I I mean, it's scary, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm taking care of myself and I'm doing everything I need. And I'm not seeing any sort of symptoms right now. So yeah, for all you out there, Google Valley fever. It's crazy.
Well, maybe that'd be the name of this episode.
Yeah, Valley fever.
I we'll get into questions about your podcast and some other things, but I've consumed a lot of your content over the years, and I always take notes on people because I know for me, I look at it as this person, they haven't been a guest. It's not a no, it's just a not yet, right? Or it's like, or they haven't been a guest yet. So I knew at some point we were gonna link up, and so followed a lot of your content. But one of my favorite stories is something that yeah, I would just love for you to kind of discuss. But when I say Township Auditorium, what comes to mind?
Oh, I had to put my drink down. Let me slide this out of the way. Township Auditorium. Yeah, that was like 2000. I think I was like a senior in high school, to tell everybody out there my age.
So we're the same age, dude. Like, we'll get into that too. You and I have a lot of similar things, man. So, like, my dad died when I was 11, and yes, I know that, right? Yeah. So, and then, pro wrestling fan, and you and I remember talking with you, and I think we were in Houston in August.
Houston, yeah.
Yeah. So so wrestling, we have that, and there's so many other things, and basketball fans, but anyway, Township Auditorium 2000, go.
Yeah, no, I was there with some friends, and we were front row for. I mean, I've always loved wrestling, right? My dad and I watched wrestling. My dad passed away when I was 11 years old, and that was a common thread that we had. I mean, we would go to really sound old. We would go to Blockbuster Video on a Friday night,
dude.
And, my dad was so into it to where, you remember WrestleMania, where it was Hogan and Warrior?
Yeah, that was 1990. Yeah. Yep.
Blockbuster didn't have WrestleMania 6. My dad went and was like, I specifically want y'all to order WrestleMania 6. So Blockbuster in Lumberton ordered a copy just for Charlie Bodenheimer. And we got it, and we came home, and he had never watched it before because pay-per-view was not that common. You had to have one of those big ass satellite dishes in your yard.
Yeah.
But I remember watching that with him, and we would we did pay-per-views together. We went to, one of my last memories was going to a wrestling event with him and meeting Bret Hart, and that was the coolest thing as a kid. My dad was a big Bret Hart guy. Watched it my whole life, kept watching it after he passed away. I go to an ECW event in the Township Auditorium, and the Sandman was in the ring. For those of y'all that can't picture who this guy is, he cracks beers open. He has a Singapore cane. He's smoking a cigarette. He's got barbed wire wrapped around one arm. He was your classic ECW guy. So he's in the ring celebrating. Enter Sandman, just blaring all around the township, and he's got a table set up in the corner, and he points to me. He does like this, and then he does that. I'm like, who the hell is he pointing at? And here guy comes over, and he's like, hey kid, get in the ring. And I look around. He's like, you get in the ring. So I jump over to barricade, and we're in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm wearing a North Carolina football jersey. So instant heat right when I get in the ring. I'm a heel. They've established I'm a heel. So I get in the ring, crowd's booing me, and Sandman's standing there. And when I get in the ring, I'm like, okay, there's so many things going through my mind, but I'm like, I've not agreed to anything. I don't know what the hell's going to go on. There's a table set up. Don't know what that's about, but that shouldn't be me. And then I'm thinking, I've heard stories about ECW fans that have got really messed up. Like, if this was New Jack, it might have been a different story. But yeah, so I'm just thinking, like, what in the hell is about to happen? And the crowd was like, ask him up. And I was like, you know what? I'm in the ring. I'm going to own this. And I turned around, and I was like, let's do it. And I turned around, I was like, shut up. Who are you? And I was like, I got to go full heel. And so yeah, I made my heel turn in Columbia, and then Sandman took the kendo stick, and the crowd was like getting louder and louder. They really wanted him to hurt me for some reason, and he handed me the kendo stick, which I have hanging in my garage gym. And then he gave it to me, and I was like, and I patted him on the back. I don't know why I did that, but I was nervous, and the crowd was like, throw him through the table, and they were getting really, really passionate about it. And Enter Sandman hits, and I'm like, okay, it's a badass song. I'm gonna get my 15 minutes of fame. So I go climb on the ropes, and I don't know what I don't know. And I hadn't been drinking either. I had like a Diet Coke or something, but I started doing like, the Triple H pose. And all of a sudden I just see, and it was like slow motion. I can still picture it. This beard just flying right at my face, and it just nails me. And when it popped me in the face, I was, the crowd was, cheering, and I was yelling at fans. And I was so rattled when I went to go get out of the ring. I exited the ring like one of the divas. I went under the middle,
the second or third rope or whatever.
Third rope. And
yeah.
I went and got back to my seat, and my friends were like, "Man, that was embarrassing." I was like, "Yeah, that guy hit me with the beer." They're like, "Nah, that was actually kind of cool." I'm talking about the way you got out of the ring. You never get that back. But yeah, I actually got a photo of me in the ring with some. They took a photo of me in there with him. But yeah, that was pretty cool. That was my in ring moment right there. That was my debut.
Nah. Hey, if you and I were a tag team, what would our name be?
Oh, gotta be something. Well, I mean,
You know what? Let's use Chat GPT. Go ahead. What do you got?
yes. Yeah. Oh, let's do that. Yeah. Use Chat GPT. We're senior. We were before you retired. We were senior NCOs. We're podcasters. We would definitely be over on the mic. So our mic skills would not be questioned. And then you got to ask it too, like what our theme song would be.
I said provide a tag team wrestling name for two podcasters who are military veterans. I know you're still active duty, but I'll do the theme song here in a second.
Yeah. Can't do Real American. Hogan's like not popular right now.
Okay, Mike. I like this one. Mike and Munitions. That's good. There's Fire Team Alpha. Yeah, Mike and Munitions. I like that. And it's the ampersand sign. I like that. That's kind of good, huh?
Yes, the Alpha one's too close to Chad Gable's team.
Yeah.
Well, he was like
What
Alpha
else?
Male, or Alpha American Alpha or something like that before.
We got Combat Cast. The After Action Duo. That's kind of boring. All right, let me do theme music. Or yeah, we'll do theme music. Here we go. I said, what would their theme music be? Entrance music be? The very first one is "Sabotage" by the Beastie Boys, which I would just automatically go with that. "Warrior Cry" by it's a custom military rap track. Okay, it's got the hip hop beat of left, the cadence. "Fortunate Son" by Creedence Clearwater. "Indestructible" by Disturbed. And those are the ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the Mike and Munitions, but
Yeah, we'd get a push on NXT.
hey, I want to take a hard right turn. Like this is one of those things for driving on the interstate, or if you're driving on the 101. I was stationed in California for 3 years, so the 101 is forever etched into my mind. But let's just say like we're on a 101 and you realize, oh damn, I just missed my exit, or I'm about to miss my exit. Like, so it's like 50 feet in front of me. So you got to do. Yeah, so that's kind of the shift we're going to make in some of the questions. But I want to talk about the shadows, because I love it, man. It's you're doing a lot of great work with it. And shout out to Miguel. He's actually going to be on my podcast later this month as well.
Nice.
Yeah, I think on the 26th. But you've had the shadows for a while, and your podcast emphasizes confronting the shadow, the hidden aspects of ourselves. How has acknowledging your own shadows influence your personal growth and leadership style?
So I think for me, the whole kind of the genesis of this was my stories always kind of shaped who I am. As we mentioned earlier, losing parent. Like I lost my father when I was 11 years old, and through every bit of humor, there's a little bit of pain and suffering behind it. I mean, comedians are notorious for it. So I kind of joke, I'm Batman, right? My father passed away right in front of me, but it propelled me to be better. I don't know what I would be at 43 years old had my father stuck around. I don't, but I know losing him early was a driving force for me to protect my mom, to look out for my sisters, to look out for my family, which I think, if you really want long-term storytelling, I'm going to be a first sergeant because I had to take care of my family. I had to look out for them. That was the most important thing to me. They were hurting, then I had to fix it. And so for me, our shadows, we have those shadows. We have those dark moments. Every single person does. They have some sort of tragedy. And I noticed by being vulnerable and putting my story out there, whether it was in a classroom, because I taught in the military for 7 years, and I was super vulnerable to certain classes. But I noticed by doing so, you never know what somebody else is going through. And everybody has those shadows, and they try to run from them. But it's really when you start to embrace them and you start to understand that, this is what happened to me. I got dealt a hand that I didn't like at the time, but it got me to where I am today. It's that victim versus victor mindset. And for me, even when doing the podcast helped me in my personal life, when my package didn't get approved as a first sergeant the first time, I was bummed, but I'm like, it's happening for a reason. Trust me.
Yeah.
And it did. 100% did. And everything that has transpired that's been some sort of hurdle in my life, whether it's losing my father at 11, losing my sister when I was 16.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been, I lost my stepfather who was legit like my father. I mean, Alan Simmons, probably the nicest man ever to walk the face of this earth. I lost him when I was overseas in Germany. And it's just been a lot of heartache. But I mean, through that, you're forged in fire sometimes, with other people and with experiences. And I mean, I got people who've come up to me and, there's things that have happened to where they're like, that happened to me too. I would like to talk to you about it. Or I'd like to open up or just grab lunch with you. And it's also that emotional intelligence aspect of it too. I'm
Yeah.
a believer in emotional intelligence. I got sick and tired of being stressed out. I got sick and tired of being frustrated and aggravated with little things. So I just started to really study up on it, got certified to teach it. And now that's kind of become the new direction of the Shadows podcast. So previously, and we still are going to do it, interview people, hear their stories, hear their shadows. And, you may have a military member, a comedian, an NFL star, an author. They go through stuff just like we do. They've had to the American Gladiators. We were talking about that before we came on the air. I interviewed 5 American Gladiators. 3 of the guys shed tears on my podcast. The 2 women did not. The 3 guys shed tears on the podcast talking about their story. But everybody goes through the suck. It's not just us. And more times than not, we think we're alone with it. But you never know. Like if you could just see little avatars gravitating over people's heads, you would see all the stressors that they go through on a day-to-day basis. But I'm at a point now in my life, and a large part of it is thanks to the Shadows podcast. And this is not a plug, but I've grown from it because hearing people's stories, focusing on the EQ aspect, I can proudly say I can go into work and I guarantee you right now where I'm currently at working right now, it has to be one of the most stressful jobs. Has to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get stressed out. I don't. But everyone around me is trying to project their stress and anxiety and frustrations. And it gets misdiagnosed as, well, you don't care. No, I'm just emotionally intelligent. And so I've been really working with, I work with Army, I work with Marines, I work with all different branches, and a lot of them do things differently than us. But it's helped me tackle my own shadows and help me grow, which as a result, second, third order effects have impacted my family, have impacted my relationships with friends, networking. I mean, you name it. So it's been great. It's been a great journey. We took about 1.5 years off, but right now we're back and pumping out some new content. But yeah, appreciate you asking about the shadows.
I didn't realize it's been 1.5 years.
Yeah. Sydney Moncrief was my last guest.
Who was?
Sydney Moncrief.
That what? Wow, we were just talking about that episode too.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, man, that is that's I didn't realize it's been 1.5 years. Now, the story about your dad, because your dad died in July of '93. My dad died in August of '93.
Really?
So a month, like a month after yours, right? And I know we're the same age, so it's you in North Carolina. I was in Oklahoma at the time that we were experiencing the same. And my dad died of cancer; he had a brain tumor. But but like it happens, right? I mean, you talked about like your dad with the heart attack, but it's us, like we were linked without ever knowing. I mean, to think, because like to me, I didn't know of any other 11-year-old at the time that was experiencing the same thing. But that's what always, when I've heard you share that story, you've been very open about it, and you've heard it. I've listened to guests on other podcasts as well, which I always appreciate. You've really opened up about sharing about your sister and then just stuff with your dad. But yeah, it always kind of like really sinks in with me, because that's like, damn, man, like Bodhi, like crazy. At the same exact time too. It's not like, there's a 4-year age gap between us, and like our dad died when, it's like, hey, we were both 11 at the same time going through the same stuff. But that's what I like about Shadows is it's like, whether it's the Shadows or a lot of other podcasts, or like podcasting is a platform for healing. And you mentioned about people just kind of having like things going around over their head. I just had my retirement ceremony 3 weeks ago, or excuse me, a month ago yesterday. And during my speech I talked about, comedians experience a lot of things. And Robin Williams had this quote. He said, people think the scariest thing in the world is to feel alone. It's not. The scariest thing in the world is to be surrounded by people who make you feel alone. And that's where, and we don't know, we're around people every single day, and we don't know if they feel alone or not. But with all that, again, like podcast is a platform for healing, and your back catalog of guests has been pretty impressive, variety from athletes to entrepreneurs. What's been, I guess, the most surprising or impactful story that you've encountered, and how has it influenced your perspective on resilience and emotional intelligence?
Great question. I've been very fortunate with the connections, like you said, that being linked and not realizing it. Like Jamie Valvano was like a really good example for me. Same thing. Her dad passed away in April of 93. And, you know, her and I linked up and we just instantly hit it off. She has an amazing son, Grant. He's a rock star. But, you know, connecting with her and then staying in touch with her as long as I have, it's you can't, to me, that's the best thing about this. It's just the connections. And it's not connections like, hey, I need a podcast. Yes, it's like just genuine connections. My daughter and I went to Atlanta and had breakfast with Jamie Andrews, who was on the podcast. One of my favorite people walking the face of the earth. That was the most fun I've ever had at a breakfast was with her in Atlanta with my daughter. But in terms of resilience, you know, just stories in general, that I've been asked that a lot from the shadows. And it's a really hard question because I don't want to say one story was like more impactful than the other. I will say for me, the one that, so Roger Pollard and Tim Lane, they were two guests that were on the Shadows podcast. Tim Lane was a good friend of Jonathan Batista, who was one of my co-hosts on the earlier episodes. Tim gets on there and he tells a story about how he had suicidal tendencies at one point. And we finished the episode and I really hit it off with Tim. I really did. And kept texting him, kept in contact with him. He did a promotional piece, had a gym, kickboxing gym, and he even, I think we still have the video online, but he went on there and was like, hey, you come in here and say you listen to the Shadows podcast. I mean, Tim was just, he was so good to me early when I was starting. And he didn't have to be. He didn't owe me anything. So Tim Lane, incredible guy. Roger Pollard, former football player, played at NC State. We had that UNC-NC State little friendly rivalry thing going. And another good guy. And I had him on the podcast. And I think I even asked him when I was on there, I was like, you know, I noticed at one point you went missing for a while. And people had thought you had taken your life. And he was pumping out books and coaching high school kids. And he has a family and Tim has a family. And you know, they're just doing these great things. And then both of them passed away. And I don't want to get into detail on either one of them.
Yeah.
Because out of respect for their families, but that was crushing to me because we shared time together, right? We get on here and we kind of broke bread together. Because when you do this, it's literally sitting down and having a drink or sharing some food with somebody. And it's no different than going to a restaurant with someone. So you spend these moments and you get very intimate with your stories that you typically don't just open up to somebody about it, bumping into them at Crunch Fitness. And so to me, having that connection with those two and then hearing about it, you know, Tim's hit pretty hard. And then Roger Pollard, oh my gosh, I just like when I heard about it, I just could not wrap my head around it. And it really got me thinking like, God, what if I would have reached out to both of them? Just one more, all the what ifs.
Right. Yeah.
But once again, that's the kind of stuff that I'm very cognizant of as a first sergeant is both of these guys screamed for help at one point in time. I, myself and everybody else, maybe we didn't let them know that they really were valued and loved and cared for. I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking, but it's definitely something that now that I have been afforded the opportunity to become a first sergeant in the United States Air Force, which is a huge honor, and I don't take it for granted. I'm taking those lessons in resiliency and using those to potentially save somebody else's life because now I know I need to reach out. I need to stay on top of it. I need to constantly communicate with them.
So I guess, you know, referencing, I know your dad and then your sister, and then just, you know, you were just talking about your two friends. Was there anything from whenever you're encountering any situation like that in present time, with everything you experienced with your dad and your sister, how did that shape your view of grief and resilience? And then I guess, like, how are you applying that today?
It's a long journey, and that's a phenomenal question. It's a long journey because at the time, to add some context, like we said, 1993, I was 11 years old. I had a sister who was 18 months younger than me. I had another sister who was 10 years older than me. She lived in North Carolina at the time. And when that happened, I remember going to my dad's funeral. And I mean, anytime something like that happens, it's a whirlwind. Like everything's just spinning. And so many people coming up to you. There's casseroles. There's people hugging you you've never met. All kinds of stuff. People coming up to you telling you if you ever need anything, I'm here for you. And I remember so many grown men would come up to me and say, hey, you're the man of the house now. Hey, take care of your mom and your sister. Hey, don't cry. You're the man now. It's your house. So they really told me to suppress and kind of bottle up my feelings. And so as an 11-year-old boy, I'm like, all right, I'm hurting, but I can't cry. I have to rub dirt on it. I can't be a punk. Everything y'all are thinking, I was playing in my head. I'm like, I can't. I have to be tough. So you add that, then a couple years later, my sister gets murdered, and she was 14 years old. So that probably that hands down, darkest day of my life. When I found that out, I still
Yeah.
replay that whole day in my head over and over and over, and I replay it a lot. But that happens, and all right, I'm 16 years old now. I'm going to high school. You can't be a punk. You can't cry. You have to bottle up your feelings. I was so frustrated and upset. And like, I remember I still can't listen to Aerosmith. I don't want to miss a thing. Cannot listen to it. That was my sister's favorite song. I drive up to Sumter High my very first day. This is 1 week after my sister's been killed. I go to school, first day of school, brand new school, pull up there, and I don't want to miss a thing comes on the radio. And I lost it in the parking lot. So I'm walking into school first day, red eyes. I walk into the front office. They've got her. We had already went to the school and kind of seen the school prior to. So they got her pass kind of as like remember the old bouncing screensavers? So that
Yeah.
had on the computer, and I was like, oh, and I lost it. I'm like, great. Here's my first impression in school. I'm crying in high school. No kid won. And to add context, it was 1998, 99.
Yes, I'm thinking about that, and it's so much different. It was so much different back then.
It
With
is today.
Yeah, people don't realize that.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, it's allergies. I'm not used to. I'm trying to come up with all this stuff, but in
Yeah,
reality,
yeah.
I'm hurting and I can't talk about it. So as a result, keeping all that bottled in led to anger management. Anger issues like crazy. I lashed out at people. I wanted to fight people. I was angry with people. I didn't take feedback because I was hurt, and hurt people hurt people. And
Mhm.
I was just in so much pain, and it followed me into relationships. And I'm not going to sit here and say I was abusive to people. I like to use my words as daggers, and I like to say hurtful things if I was hurt, if I was attacked, because I never knew any coping mechanisms or anything like that. And it wasn't until probably the COVID era around that I really learned, hey, you're driving a vehicle that since 1982 has so many check engine and the whole dashboard is flashing like, hey, you need to take your car in and get it looked at. You need to pop the hood. But we're afraid to pop our hood, but we're quick to point out what's wrong with other vehicles. So I said, you know what? Mental health. Let's do it. And I was in a developmental special duty. I was a senior non-commissioned officer in the Air Force. Every reason for you not to go. But Chief Master Sergeant Demetrius Booth, who was our commandant at the time, do you know him?
So he was, when I went to Senior NCO Academy, he was the instructor, and powerful, impactful guy, man.
I love him. He's amazing.
Yeah.
So we were on a Zoom call, and this was kind of the turning point for me. And I don't even know if he knows this, but we were on a Zoom call. Tony Richardson was our guest speaker for the class, and it was a Airman or EPMIC, Enlisted Professional Military Education Instructor course class. And all the students were on break. Teams, everybody has their camera off and everything. But Chief Booth gets on there, and he's like, "Hey, Tony, I appreciate you doing this. I want to hang around and hear your guest speaker hour with the students, but I have to go to mental health." And I was like, oh my God. So I started texting him, and I'm like, hey, you just said you're going to mental health in front of all the students. And he goes like, hey, Bodhi, I know, like on the mic. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And so when all the students came back in, he told them that he's going to mental health. And he's like, hey, I give Bodhi credit, right? He tried to look out for me. He texted me. He said, what are you doing?
Good.
He's like, but I'm a black male. I'm a chief master sergeant. I'm a commandant. I'm a defender, which for non-military people is essentially a cop. He's like, I have everything that says I cannot go to mental health going against me, but I'm going to mental health. And I'm still going to be a chief master sergeant. I'm still going to be a defender, and I'm still going to be a commandant. But I need to get seen. And a week later, I was in mental health talking to them, and I was like, let's dust off some stuff from the 90s and figure out what's going on with me. And I figured out there was a lot of stuff that I just I never really knew how to properly express my emotions, and it helped my marriage big time. It saved my marriage. It really did. And my wife is a saint. I mean, for putting up with me, because childhood trauma, living with a mother who was absolutely just my mom, I can't blame my mom for anything. She lost her dad, I mean her husband and her daughter in a 5-year span. Who's not going to struggle from that? But yeah, I just had a lot of baggage, and childhood trauma is a real thing. Mental health did wonders for me. And then also shout out to Noble Gibbons, the EQ gangster. He's like my personal emotional intelligence coach, and him, exposing me to this thing that is emotional intelligence that we've been afraid of forever. Game changer as well. And then having a really strong support system,
Yeah.
that I gained a lot from the Shadows podcast, and having good people to talk to was kind of a saving grace for me.
It's like you're reading the notes right off my page, because I was going to ask you, like, what finally helped you with regard to bottling up emotions? Like, what helped you to finally open up, and then what impacts did that have on your relationships? But
I
you
will say
mentioned
this: I journal, meaning like if I need to, I have a yellow legal pad and I'll write out letters to people, and then I don't give them to you. I just burn them or throw them away. But if you really make me mad, that's kind of how I go about it. But then the other thing that I really do that helps me with my emotions, if I'm frustrated with somebody, if I'm really pissed, so if you really piss me off, when I have that 10-minute drive to work, I'm going to have a conversation with you in my car. I'm going to practice how I'm going to talk to you when I see you. More times than not, and I may have that conversation 2 or 3 times, like just practicing it over and over. I know it sounds crazy, but it trust me.
no, that's great. I keep going, man. This is great.
It's a form of expression, which is a form of therapy. So, I'll go to work and I'll be like, Martin, you just really pissed me off, and blah, 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 blah. And, you made me feel this way. And how dare you, this, and this. And then I get into work and I see you and I'm like, I don't need to have that conversation anymore. Like, I've already got it out of my system. Right. And that's the biggest thing. It's just venting, getting it out of your system. And, I thought I was alone with that. And then I met another first sergeant who was like, I never drive with my radio on. Now, for everyone listening, you 100% need to drive with your radio on and listen to Passing the Torch with Shadows podcast.
That's right.
But if you're caught up on those, and turn it off and have that conversation with somebody, because it really does work. Even for, emotions come in many different forms. So like public speaking, if you got a big presentation at work, drive to work with your radio off and practice what you're going to say. And it helps with those emotions. So don't just think of it as, I'm pissed off or there's some sort of tragedy, but just anything that impacts your day to day, use that time in the car to get it out of your system. And I do, even if I leave work and I was frustrated the other day with something. I drove back from work to the apartment and I got it all out of my system. And by the time I walked through that door, I was fine.
It's so true. When I was stationed in Hawaii, I had an hour commute each way to and from work. But like getting off work at 5:30 in the evening, I'd have that hour commute home. I wouldn't listen to the radio. I would just be in silence that entire ride home.
Yeah.
And it was such a good outlet. So when I came home, I was just relaxed.
Well, and music dictates your temperament too. If you're going to drive home and listen to, Eminem, you're going to be pissed. But I mean, you can also, but probably say the same for like a Frozen soundtrack. But if you listen to something,
just let it go.
Yeah, I mean, but it's crazy. There's like science behind music dictating art. There's a reason why when people work out, they're jamming out to certain music. But so that's one thing we just talked about it on the Shadows the other day when we were talking about road raging, and I was like, a large part of that is depending on what you work. The guy is zooming in and out of traffic, just threatening to run everybody off the road. Guarantee you, he's not rocking Nelly Furtado. Right. He is 100% pumping something in that car that he's got some old school Limp Bizkit and he's an angry person.
Yeah.
But he's not playing Promiscuous Girl. I guarantee you that. So yeah, that's my best Nelly Furtado one, Promiscuous.
No, it's good. I have one more serious question, then we'll get into some fun, lighter questions. But I got to ask this because you mentioned coping mechanisms and coping method. And I know just your background and what you study, and I see all the things that you post about. What is a childhood coping method that you unknowingly developed only to realize now that it wasn't normal?
The childhood coping method that I developed that I have come to find out is not normal.
Yeah, and you didn't realize you developed it, right? It's hindsight now. You realize, oh, that was my negative outlet or whatever. But yeah, so just something that you unknowingly develop, and then now you realize, well, that's not right. That's not normal.
Arguing. I mean, I thought that was what you're supposed to do. My mom, like I said, I love my mom. I love her to death. I mean, amazing woman. And I would do anything for my mom. But yeah, we fought a lot verbally. And like I said, it was the 90s, right? That's how it was. And not that was any, it was not right. But I would argue with her. I would say hurtful things to her. I said those verbal daggers. I have so many scars from her verbal daggers. But my mom, and I'm not proud to say this, has verbal scars from my verbal daggers as well. And, in the midst of all this was my sister. So now all of us, it was hurt, 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 hurt. And I thought that's how you're supposed to cope with things is you get that last word in, you get that last comment in, and you're like, that got him. That got her. She's hurt now. And, unfortunately with my mom, a lot of our verbal daggers would come from at the expense of talking about my dad or my sister. And it just was not healthy. So I get in relationships and, when things, any relationship, you get into it, you take them somewhere nice, like Arby's or Applebee's and first date and, it's wonderful. And, ha ha, you're the funniest person ever. This is great. And you go on 3 more dates and you're in love. But then after a month, you're like, oh, I see how this person really is. They disgust me. Well, I figured I'm supposed to argue. That's what I do at the house. So I would argue and, I was a verbal grappler. I would love to just take you down with my words and did me no favors. And then I met who's now Teresa Bodenheimer. And I remember I lashed out. I said something because I was mad about something we get mad about dumb stuff, right? Like you bought the wrong dryer sheets or, why were the sodas not put in the fridge? Like stupid stuff. So we were arguing about something and she said, hey, I'm going to be real with you. I'm not your mom. You don't talk to me like that. You don't raise your voice like that. Do you understand? And something about the way she said it, I was like, yes, ma'am. Well, I was more afraid of her than I ever was
Yeah.
running around Lackland. So I realized that I had been doing that. And I look back in hindsight and I'm like, wow, I was an asshole for a long period of time. I mean, I'm still the core, right? Like I like to joke around. I'm still me.
Yeah.
If you really pissed me off, I was done with you. And I would make sure I burned the hell out of that bridge. I'd have Seth Rollins
Scorched
theme
earth.
playing as I'm burning it down. Like I was mad. I was so mad at people. And I would hold grudges for a long, long time. But then after
Yeah.
Teresa said that to me, I lost that edge of verbal combat. And it's just and trust me, it probably saved me because I probably would have been fired as a PME instructor because there was a lot of gaslighting and negative experiences that I had over there. And I just took it and said, you know what? I'm going to find my ways to vent, which was the drives home or journaling, getting it out of my system or finding a safe person to talk to about it. But yeah, definitely shouting and screaming and arguing was something that I thought was healthy. And then became 30 some years old and I realized, what the hell have you been doing? And it's the cool thing about it is never too late to look back and be like, you know what? Damn, I should have learned that sooner. But that's life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why we live till we're 80 and dogs live till they're 15. They understand and get all that by the time they're 15 years old. We live to be 80 and 90 and still can't grasp it.
True. All right. We'll go to some lighter questions. But I appreciate opening up. That was really good. Yeah. And I don't know if I've ever heard you really talk about that before in other podcasts. So that was thanks for that.
Here.
Exclusive, man. I love it. It's a Mike and Munitions exclusive.
We got to get like shirts and everything. We've got an in AEW and TNA right now. So and I got some NXT.
Man, look at you, dude. Like, I was gonna bring that up. Like, look at you bringing it up. You talking about with Deanna and Steve Macklin, or are you talking about
the Virtuoso?
Yeah. Dude, man, she wasn't. I could not believe I got her as a guest. That's why I was, man. And I've met her in person. Her and Steve Macklin came here for like. There's a big independent company out here. Then I go to their shows pretty often. It's called Revolver. They do like it's real big in the Midwest. They go to like Chicago and Iowa and stuff like that. Austin Ace is part of it. If you watch, I don't know how much you watch TNA, but like John Moxley will show up and stuff like that. So, but it's really good. But I talked to them for like 30 minutes after they both had matches that night, and just super cool, down to earth, and big fans of both of them.
That's all. Yeah, that was good stuff with them. And he's a Marine.
Yeah, dude. So it was, obviously there was some like what we did. We didn't record it. I didn't publish everything that was recorded. When we were just warming up before I hit record. I mean, we were just digging at each other, Marines and Air Force, and just making jokes. But he's really cool, man. Like I was super proud of that.
They do a
And
lot of
and
veterans
then
too.
they do. They just did something with Tunnel to Towers over Memorial Day weekend. But yeah, she's so cool, man. I was just blown away the fact that I got her on my podcast, man. But on that, when you think of the word successful, who is the first person that comes to mind and why? And I bet I know who you're going to say, but
Really?
I don't know.
Well,
Maybe not. Go ahead,
give
man.
me like let's narrow this down a little bit. So successful, are you thinking like military? Or are you thinking like athlete? Or you think
Whatever. Actually, just who comes to mind?
honestly, I would say my daughter. I'd say my daughter because
Nice.
okay, adulting, as much as we want to say it's hard, it's easy. You control a lot of it. You don't like someone, you wipe them. You just don't talk to them. I don't say wipe them out like
Yeah.
kill them, but you just don't talk to them. You just, it's easy to let go of things. It's easy to pave your own path and to do your own thing. A teenage girl, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, especially now with social media and the fact that for those of you who don't have a kid in high school, teachers have almost zero power nowadays. None.
Yeah.
It is ridiculous. And my daughter she is her. She's a lot like me. I always joke, I'm like, if I was a 17-year-old girl, I would be that. But the best personality in the world. I am so blessed with her personality and her wit and her humor and her confidence, but it gets rattled just like anybody else. And she has haters and she has people coming at her different directions and trying to tarnish her name, just like any high school kid. But she withstands all that. And she went through some teenage high school drama not too long ago. And then about a day later, she's like, she hurt for a little bit. And then she's like, you know what? I got my plan. Here's my plan. Boom, 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 boom. And she has observed behavior, right? She watches my wife. She watches me. Neither one of us have an off button until my wife's going to college and knocking out, her doctorates. She's getting that knocked out right now and working full time and head coach of the cheerleading team at the high school. And she watches me do the military thing full time and be deployed and do podcasting and sticking to a workout, which you and I talked about earlier, is just, it's tough and getting up and you don't have enough time in the day. But my daughter sees that and my daughter emulates what we're doing. So she calls me the other day and she's like, hey, I'm working on my resume. I need some help. Hey, I want to go to this school. Here's what I need to do. So my daughter, to me, is who I think of when it comes to successful, just because there's not anybody I'm more proud of right now than her. My wife's a very close second, but my daughter.
What an incredible answer. That is perfect. I never would have guessed that, but that's outstanding.
I think I was gonna go with.
I thought you were going to say Booth.
Now he 100%. His story is pretty deep, and he'd be a good guest for you to have on.
Yeah, and I've run into him, and he's on, like, there's a book that I have. You talked about writing, so I journal a lot, and there's a book that I have, and it has about 150 podcast guests, and like people I want to be on the show, or even some people I've had on the show. It's a combination of friends, like your name's in there. So military people, civilians, authors, athletes, family, and but it's part of my process. And one of my favorite things to do is after someone's on my show, I go to that book, and I like to write in pencil. I don't like to write in pen unless we have to for work stuff, but I will check mark that person's name off in my book. And it's just, and I love it.
A little dopamine rush.
It is. But yeah, anyway, Booth's name's in there, and I've had my podcast. I've just been horrible with being consistent because trying to do everything and you get it, right? That's why it's a joy talking to you, because you understand it. Like, people think, oh, just edit your podcast. Is that it? Like, is that what I'm missing? It's just editing, or they think, oh, just use Canva to make a YouTube thumbnail. I'm like, yeah, you can do it in a quick amount of time, but it's more than there's so much more to it, right? And then the publishing and all these different things, where people are like, we'll just hire someone to do it. Well, that costs a lot of money, and when we're not making anything. But so he's been someone I've been
I'll get him in contact.
wanting on the show, and
I'll get
Huh?
him in contact with you.
I got his. Like I can reach out to him. I appreciate. Yeah, he was my instructor, and I remember when we had to do like our final project. I did in my final project, so I can do impressions of people, and I did an impression of him, and I gave my final speech with like as him or whatever. And he's crack. Everyone in the class is
I do
cracking
the
up and
same thing.
everything, and
I do the same thing. I do impressions. We are a
I'm telling you, man. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. It's very similar, man. It's very. I mean, did I have notes about you? I don't want to go get it right now, but when I got promoted a couple years ago, or selected for promotion in 2021, a box shows up in my house one day, and I open it up and I asked my wife, like, "Hey, did you buy me something?" She was like, "No." Open it and dude, it's the NWO Hogan Championship belt.
spray paint one.
Yeah. Yeah, spray painted. And I was like, oh man. So like, and I have that hanging up in my house. And I know, but one of my favorite belts, my favorite belt of all time, and I love that belt. I always loved the old WWF, the heavyweight championship, the Winged Eagle. But my second favorite belt was the IC title belt of like the 80s and the 90s. And I know you got it because I've seen pictures on Instagram.
I was the honky tonk man of the school. I was the longest reigning instructor, and so they gave me the 80s because we used to do Dusty Rhodes impressions, and we used to do impressions of superstar Billy Graham and all those guys, and then we would be doing it in front of the students too. So the funny thing was we would always kind of sit back and laugh because we would watch Dark Side of the Ring, which is very good. So good. And we would watch Dark Side, and then we would come in and we'd all be talking about it as like a cadre, and then we would be walking around doing like Dusty Rhodes, or the guy I worked with, Sergeant Barton. He is just the worst Dusty Rhodes impression you've ever heard in his life, but bless his heart, he tries. We would even like to go old school, like Rick Martel impressions.
Wow.
Yeah. And
man, I'm loving the deep cuts here, man. This is because I mean, I have friends who watch wrestling. There's one friend who, the guy I went to SummerSlam with, he knows a lot, but most people don't know. They wouldn't know Rick Martel, or they wouldn't. Yeah, or even the fragrance. I forgot about that. Was it Arrogance? What was the name of it?
Yeah, Arrogance.
His Arrogance. Yeah,
his perfume, Rick the Model.
Yeah. Or even the reference to Honky Tonk being the longest reigning IC champ. Like that's yeah. Right. So in the last 5 years, what new belief or behavior has most improved your life?
Emotional intelligence, but I would also say, my faith. I've improved my faith a lot.
Yeah,
because that was rattled when you have so much loss. That was rattled 100%. My daughter gave herself to God a couple years ago, which is a very proud moment for me. So and I would say too, like just perspective. I mean, perspective's really has changed the past 5 years. I talk about it really in depth on our first episode back, Ginger Snaps, and
I didn't want to bring that up.
It is deep, but I don't look at that. And I mean, that's my perspective. I don't look at that. It's a super dark moment. We lost a dog of 17 years. And right when we were taking her to put her down, I pick her up and she bit me. And I don't know if you can really see it. It was right after I saw you at APSA too.
So yeah, and I think we were. I remember talking because you had to leave the conference early, right, or something. Or I remember I felt like I was talking to you, and you got a text from your wife. There was something about your dog. I remember.
But you can see it like right here. But she bit it took off the whole top part here and then all the way under. So my lip. I'll text you the pictures if you want them. But pretty nasty. But I stayed positive the whole time. I never one time was like. Now, for a split second, I'm like, well, thank God I'm married because no one's going to swipe right with this face if I was ever single again. But even the EMTs came there, and then when they told me to take the ice pack off, and they all were like, oh my God, and like jump back like I'm this horror monster, a universal monster. I kept joking, and I was joking in the car. I even told the EMT who was taking me to the hospital, I'm like, I feel like Harvey Dent from Dark Knight. And
nice, man, a little Two-Face reference.
Yeah, I'm a big Batman guy, so I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Two-Face will be my nickname the rest of my career. But at the time, I had to turn in a full body shot photo for my first sergeant package, which was, told no, we're not doing that because you don't want to see him right now. But at that time, I was more worried about my wife and I was more worried about my daughter. My daughter witnessed the whole thing and cleaned it up. And then she had to ride with my wife to the vet. with a dog that just bit her husband's face off, and now she's got to go to the hospital and pick up her husband who's getting his face sewn back on. And so, but my perspective was positive. I'm eating with a spoon for about 3 weeks, to where I had to turn the spoon upside down to use my whole bottom lip just to get food off of it. And I could not eat like normal. But I never one time like threw anything down or woe is me. I was just like, you know what? I've got a good life, right? I had a dog that was just absolutely incredible. Not mad at her one bit. She's an animal and was hurt, and I picked her up. It was my fault. And my wife is hurting, and my wife needs me to be strong. And there was really no need for me to. It was my mistake. So perspective, I think 100% has changed in the past 5 years. What is there in life to get mad about when you really think about it?
When people call wrestling fake. Hey, after the whole story about ginger snaps, I remember I think I just went and hugged my dog for like an hour, man. I was just like, because I love my dog so
I saw
much.
that Patrick Swayze quote on Instagram the other day, where it was like, you know, people come in my house and say your house smells like a dog, and I'm like, yeah, it smells like love and loyalty and compassion. And basically Patrick Swayze telling people to F off if you don't like the way his house smelled. But like I said, man, dogs get the purpose of life, and they understand it, and they master every single lesson that human beings can't. And we almost go in reverse, because we're loving, caring, compassionate, all the above as children, most are. And then the older you get, the more honor you get, and you leave this world super angry.
Yeah.
And dogs just don't. Dogs just get it. And I mean, they're loving up until their last moment. I went up to Ginger as soon as she bit my face off, and I went up and I kneeled down and hugged her and tried to give her a kiss, but you know, I kind of I love her, and I'm not mad at you. And yeah, dog. Give me a dog over a person all day. And I like the joke too. You put your dog and you put your wife in the trunk for an hour. You open it up. Which one's happy to see you? So, yeah.
Your wife might punch you later, man. You might get a black eye or something.
She
later.
knows right now that. I mean, my freaking screensaver on my phone. It's not my wife. It's Bailey. Bailey's my world. And then Dexter, and then Teresa, and then Becton. And Becton and Teresa, they're tied.
All right, I got another one. Rapid fire, and again, like these are random questions. There's no rhyme or reason. What one piece of memorabilia would you want from either Rocky 3 or Rocky 4?
Oh, Rocky 4. Apollo Creed's outfit when he just gets murdered.
So like the uncles, that could be our ring attire. Yeah. The Uncle Sam hats and
and what's funny is I met Carl Weathers at a Comic-Con in Germany, and I met him and oh my gosh, Ivan Drago.
Oh, Dolph Lundgren or Lundgren?
I met both of them, and I went up to Carl Weathers and I was like, I'm not gonna lie to you. I said, I know you hear this from everybody. You dying in Rocky taught me resiliency, and it was one of the darkest moments of my childhood. And he laughed and was like, man, I get that so much. And I was like, it's true. So yeah, in my home gym, I have a big Rocky section, and I'm a big Rocky collector.
Yeah, I've put that. That's why I asked that question, because I know you're a Rocky fan. So
my Dolph Lundgren signed photos in there right by my heavy bag. So I turn on a little Hearts on Fire
little Nelly Furtado. Promiscuous Girl is your pen the bag.
I was trying to think of another one. Say It Right or something like that. It's another Nelly Furtado one. I think I probably butchered that one. That might be all right.
I called it Furtado.
Like a Nelly Furtado entrance music.
Maybe. Like I'm also like, if you think Carl Weathers, not only the Rocky 4 death, like didn't he get killed in Predator?
Yeah, he died a lot.
Yeah, it's like, why, man? Like damn, man, like give the guy a break.
Didn't he die? Did he die in Mandalorian?
So I know you're a Star Wars fan, but I am not. So yeah, I mean, I've seen like all the movies up until I think 2005, but I haven't seen all the recent stuff. I haven't seen the ones with. All right, so I want to play a little name game. I'm gonna say a couple of names. Just say the first word that comes to your mind, or two words if you can't, that whenever you hear the name. All right, first up is Caleb Pearson.
I'm trying to think of the word.
Skinny, scrawny.
No, he passionate.
Yeah. All right. Let's see who else have we got. All right, the second one is Miguel. No last name needed.
Tag team partner. Leader. He's a leader.
Yeah, he's doing some good stuff, man. He was picking up a lot of steam at AFSA I know he was cutting some hair and having some conversations. All right, last two names. Amy Wade.
Love Amy Wade. Incredible. She's done a lot for me. I owe a lot to Amy Wade. I know it's not one word. Yeah, incredible.
So yeah, so she's been trying to so her and I were in tech school together, and then we were at our first duty station together. We joined the Air Force like 1 week apart, so we've always had And when we were in tech school, we lived in the same apartment complex, so I was around her a lot. And it was interesting as her husband Ryan joined the same day that I did, and whenever he retired a couple of years ago, it really hit me. Like that's when it started catching. I was like, because I remember his retirement cake. It had November 19th. Because he had November 19th, 2002, and I think he did right exactly 20. But I mean, I remember it hit me, and I think I called her, and she was a guest on my podcast a couple of years ago. She's been trying to link you and I for a long time. I'll talk to her maybe like once a year or something, or just call her randomly.
She calls me about once a year. I hope she hears
but that. Macho Man Randy Savage.
Oh, iconic. I mean, this is the thing. Oh, so we were talking about wrestling earlier. You see, you got me started with this. Macho Man Randy Savage. Someone doesn't like wrestling, they know the Macho Man. They know his catchphrase. They know him from Slim Jims. He was one of the first wrestlers to kind of take it mainstream with a lot of marketing. His Slim Jim deal was incredible for WCW, but now you're seeing guys out there and I get Logan Paul is a little bit different, but now you got wrestlers out there promoting all kinds of stuff. And Macho Man was kind of a pioneer with that. So I'd kind of say pioneer for the Macho Man. Call a little audible real quick. Give me 5 wrestling word associations. They can be anybody.
What do you mean? Oh, wrestlers, or give you 5 wrestlers? Marcus Bagwell. You want me to give you names?
Give me names. Let's do that.
Marcus Bagwell.
He came on the podcast, and he was an amazing guest. He didn't make me feel like he was. Sometimes you interview people on these podcasts, and it's you feel like you're a little bit beneath them the way they talk to you and stuff. I texted him after Dark Side of the Ring, and I was like, bro, great episode, man. That was amazing.
Yeah. So same for me. He was on my podcast and just a super chill guy. And he called me one day. To confirm the interview, and it said Marcus Bagwell on my phone. My wife was like, and I was like, this is great. I mean, imagine, Bodhi, if you and I could go back to when we were 16.
Same thing.
Imagine, we're watching Nitro, and to say those guys, we go back in time and say hey, Buff Bagwell is going to call you guys or be on your podcast. First of all, what's a podcast in 1999?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
cool.
Man, I probably received the most follower wise, probably not the biggest I've had, but probably he's the guest that I've received. How the hell would you get Buff Bagwell or Marcus Bagwell onto your podcast? Yeah. All right. LA Knight.
In my opinion, his window's kind of shrinking a little bit. He's still over. But his window's shrinking.
Yeah, for sure. Deanna Perrazzo.
Virtuoso.
She's great, man. Bulletproof Steve Macklin.
Beast. That underrated. Yeah. I think he's underrated.
Yeah. Maybe that could be his new name, underrated Steve Macklin. I would say the last one we'll go with Kevin Nash.
He's actually a really good podcaster. He's funny. And he's a low-key funny. He'll just talk normal, and it's funny as hell.
Yeah, he's got that dry, the way he just kind of delivers some jokes and stuff.
Who do you think, here on the pod, last question I have for you, who do you think El Grande Americano is?
I can't think of a clever answer. Definitely not Chad Gable.
The American Made said it was Mark Henry.
I was going to say R-Truth, but it might be too soon. Yeah. All right. I want to ask you some more questions just as we're wrapping up. Who's your favorite UNC player from the 1990s? Basketball.
Wow, from the 90s. Everybody thinks Vince Carter, but Vince Carter actually didn't take off till he went to Toronto. I mean, he was a good college player. 90s, I would go Antoine Jameson.
I would go with Shamad Williams. And I know he was a guest on your show, and I loved him in college.
Well, Ed Cota, too. Ed Cota.
Yeah, Ed Cota,
just the way Antoine Jameson could dominate a game. And Shaman could, too. I mean, Shaman dropped, I think, 43 on Georgia Tech. But Antoine Jameson he was a freaking beast, though, from his freshman year on.
Yeah, no, but for sure. All right, last couple questions. I know you love scary movies. I actually reached out to, and I'll be honest, I reached out to a friend, someone who knows you very well, and I said, I actually reached out to Amy Wade, and I said, but this is a couple nights ago, I said, hey, Bodhi's going to be on my podcast. What's something I can ask him that I can't Google, that you're only going to know if you work side by side with him or work, whatever. So she said you love scary movies. So if you were directing a scary movie about military podcasters, what would the name of that movie
Back to
be?
Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, these are good questions. Hold on. I'm going to try it now. So let me use my subscription for Chat GPT.
No, it's fine. Does it sound like I have an echo at all? No. Can you hear an echo when I'm talking or no? Okay, good. I'm excited about the name of the scary movie.
Okay. Creating a movie about a military podcaster that's a horror film. What would the 5 titles be?
What do we got?
Chat GPT. All right. So they said Signal Lost. A military podcaster broadcasts his final episode from an abandoned house, but something or something is listening. Okay. Dead air, the final transmission. What started as a routine podcast becomes a desperate cry for help as his guests start vanishing. All right, bud. See you later. Echoes in the wire. All right. This is my language as a comm guy. An encrypted audio file reveals the truth not meant for human ears. The silent rank. The silent rank, a military podcaster investigates a squad wiped from records, only to find they may still be serving in death. And then finally, Operation Black Frequency. While tracking a rogue signal, a podcaster uncovers a covert military experiment buried in static and screams. I'm going with,
I think number 4, right?
Silent rank. Yeah, I'm going.
There's some good ones.
Silent rank.
Man, those are some good ones. Those are some real good ones. Yeah. All right. Last 2 questions. If there's a giant billboard with your picture on the 101 or whatever big highway in Florida, but yeah, if there's a giant billboard with your picture on it for the world to see, and your message, what would you want that billboard to say, and where would you want that billboard to be located?
I mean, right when you're going into LA, right there where all the traffic gets hung up on the 14.
Yeah.
But no, it's not the 14. What is that? The 1?
The 405?
So right there. But no, I'm kind of a quote nerd, but I'm going to honor the late Val Kilmer. And he has a quote in his book that I love and that I have used so many times, and it's so true. The universe's rejection is the universe's protection. And it's such a good quote to me. I mean, it's just things happening for a way. We get turned down from things. We get rejected. We get things that don't go our way. And ultimately, it's all part of a bigger plan. It happened for an exact reason. I lost my dad. I lost my sister. I've got my face bit off. All that stuff has happened to me for a reason. And I've been denied opportunities, but then other opportunities have reared their head. So yeah, the universe's rejection is the universe's protection. To the best Bruce Wayne.
That is fire, man. I've never heard that quote. So last question is, this is something I knew I started asking. The billboard used to be the final question, but I've now since added this last one. But what is one piece of wisdom would you pass on to the next generation of people to help them light their own torch and carry it forward?
Be you. I mean, it's so cliche, right? But like, we're in a society where it's so easy for us to want to emulate others, whether it's, podcasting, right? We get into podcasting, we watch how someone podcasts, and we're like, oh, I gotta go that route. I gotta do that. I gotta do it. You watch somebody working out, you watch somebody cooking, like you see people's personalities on movies and TVs or people you work with. And we're like, we're often told at times too, like your personality is too much if you're very, A-type personality, if you're very extroverted, or you're told you need to talk more if you're very introverted or very to yourself. But like, be you and very unapologetically be you. Because when I had to do an interview recently, and I got asked this today. I met up with a group of people today, and they're going through a process very similar to something I went through. And they were like, I just don't know how to do this. And I'm like, look, I would rather somebody not like me because they don't like me. There's just something they don't like about me. And if that's the case, well, there's a lot of people in this world. And I'm at the point in my life when I don't need 5,000 leaves on the tree. I need like some really, really good friends, some good people, but I can't be a constant people pleaser. And how many Facebook friends do we have? 1,000? How many do you really talk to?
Yeah, like maybe 50, right? Like if that, right?
We don't. And it's just how it is. But, we live in a world where we try to, I want to be the next influencer. I want to be this or this or this. No, I go home. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I love my dogs. That podcast because it helps me. And I also podcast because I want to help other people. But when you listen to me on the podcast, much like with
Yeah.
you and I are ourselves. I'm not going to get on and go like, "Welcome to the Shadows Podcast." I'm not doing all that. I'm going to be me.
That's pretty good
Oh,
radio
well,
voice.
yeah.
That's pretty good.
But no, I mean that's just it. I mean, just be you, and especially for kids. Like if someone's a teenager or they're young 20s and you're struggling and you're seeing everybody else, on social media doing all the things that like screw that. Be you and be unapologetic for it. People will like you for people like my daughter because she is her. They don't like her, but she puts on a front to
Yeah.
get friends from somebody because then they're not really your friends. Yeah, I wish I knew that earlier because I lived a lot of my life trying to just appease other people. And then as a
Me too.
result, internally, I was
Me too.
miserable.
Yeah, it just eats you up. Bodhi, what do you want people to know about the Shadows podcast, and where do you want people to go to find it?
TheShadowsPodcast.com. We've kind of dusted off our Instagram page. We've started to put out a lot of like audio clips on there. We're having fun with it. Having a lot of fun with that. We're trying each week to focus on a different topic. Since we've been back, the shift has been towards emotional intelligence. First week was all about the lessons learned from the dog bite from Ginger. And then after that, we really want to tackle topics that can relate to the everyday person. Every single person out there gets pissed off or triggered by something different. Somebody does. And I love bringing it up to people, whether it's, I'm visiting John Gronsky, 40 years retired in the military. And he's like, oh my gosh, what really pisses me off is when people don't watch where they're walking. And, everybody I talk to has these unique triggers that just, they get fired up about something. So we kind of pivoted to like this is kind of like our really long season 2. And we're just going to be talking about, we're going in all sorts of directions. It's really going to be a lot of deep self-reflecting on the listener's part. And we've got Joe Bogdan lined up. We're going to talk about like why, when like our core values are violated, does that trigger us? We're going to be talking. We got you coming on here. So we're working that, but you're going to be on here with Miguel and myself. And we did one episode with Noble Gibbons on traffic, just the frustrations of being behind a wheel. And
you know what? I listened. That's how I knew the name. I was like, that name sound. That's this is like 3 weeks within the past month or so, right?
Great. I thought it was a great episode. And my whole vision for the podcast was I want a listener to check out this episode and be like, you and your wife are in the car together and you suffer from road rage. She does not. Well, when you listen to the podcast, Noble does not suffer from road rage. Noble's like, I'm a 3% out of 100. I'm more like a 40%. Art is like an 85, and I think he was being a little humble. He's more like a 98. But that's exactly what I wanted, is from different perspectives. It would suck if we got on there and we're all like, yeah, hell yeah, all three of us triggered by traffic. But it was Noble helping Miguel, if you listen to that episode, throughout it a lot. And then the cool thing is, Miguel and I are starting to track a lot of this on our own journey, which we're going to start documenting through the podcast. So I don't want to, I'll tell you, because probably by the time this is released, but like we're releasing an episode about irrational triggers, things like Miguel gets pissed off because someone doesn't turn the timer off. You take your food out of the microwave at 17 seconds and you leave it on. That pisses him off. I get mad when someone gets to the, I'm behind them in Chipotle and they get up to the front and they act like they've never seen this giant menu in front of them when it's their turn to order. And so there's things we talked about on there that now I'm walking into a Chipotle tonight and I'm like, okay, Miguel and I talked about a couple of things here. I have to test a couple of these things. And so I want to, when we jump back on for follow-up episodes, we're going to do follow-ups with, hey, Miguel, how's your road rage coming? Lessons learned.
That's good.
This is why Chipotle pissed me off today. And everybody listen, Chipotle does not support the military. They support first responders. Isn't that messed up? Yeah, no discount. They're like, no, you're not a police officer. I'm military. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Hashtag Chipotle needs to change. But anyways, I still go there. Yeah, we do little things like that. And it's fun. And the goal is to make people like, we want to go on this widespread, let's reduce the amount of triggers we all have in our lives. And for those of you who really check it out and listen, I can promise you that we're going to, as long as you are open and honest with just yourself, you can learn a lot about yourself from listening to these. The music playlist thing we were joking about, that we talked about that on the
Yeah.
traffic piece. And I've been in traffic the past couple of days, and I started getting mad about something. I'm like, nope, Noble said this on the podcast. This is what I need to do. And it's helped me, and I'm hosting it. So I can imagine what it's doing
Yeah.
for listeners. But yeah, the shadowspodcast.com, on Instagram, _shadows podcast. We just started our page. So you can find us on there, but I'll send you all the links. But yeah, go out there, support us, and then tell us what topics y'all want to discuss. I think you and I are going to talk about sports triggers and the shopping cart. That has been the number one
That's right,
requested
man.
thing is shopping.
Dude, I will die on
memory.
that hill.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Hey, Bodhi, thank you so much, man. This has been an episode, years, I'm not sure how many years, but years in the making. So I'm glad that we were finally able to make it happen. I know we had the great conversation in August or last August in Houston, and here we are, man. So I look forward to catching up again